I came up with something for myself, and that's my own personal problem. Whoever wants to, stands by my side. Whoever doesn't, well, thanks anyway. Just don't stab me in the back. People didn't really have any significant ambitions, any genuine dreams, strong convictions, or clear plans for their future. A systematic act of humiliation, one assault, then another assault. What else, I ask you, do I have to do to finally get this small, little, shiny medal?
Injustice leads to defeat.
To a loss of faith.
And then to even worse consequences. It can lead to that. Inner strength, resilience, inner confidence in what is true, in the value of struggle. Even if the whole world is against you. Hello, I'm Nicholas Iski, and this is Archetype of the Nation, a cultural project that explores the foundations of Ukrainian national identity, who we were, who we have become, and who we must and can be. We look for answers in folklore, as well as in conversations with outstanding representatives of our nation. Today, our guest is Valerii Markus, a soldier, writer, and popular blogger. Good afternoon, Valerii.
Good afternoon.
Each episode of our project is dedicated to one of the values characteristic of the Ukrainian nation, one of the elements of our identity, and I would like to suggest that we talk about such a value as justice.
Let's talk.
What does justice mean to you?
It is truly the harmony of an overall existence within a society. We are all biological beings. All of us have some inherent concept of justice, even if we remain silent. At some point, we start to feel a profound sense of injustice directed personally at us, and it is in no way compensated. This very significant issue, this profound problem, gradually begins to accumulate deep inside a person, within an individual, and similarly within the broader fabric of society, just like the historical events leading up to the dramatic French Revolution, and then, inevitably, it violently explodes. Whether on the grand scale of an individual or an entire nation, it still inevitably explodes. That is precisely why justice is a fundamental, natural inner need of every person. This is about psychology. Another significant issue that we must carefully consider is the imperative need to clearly and precisely distinguish between the various and often complex levels of justice. This is particularly crucial because as we progressively ascend, so to speak, through the intricate layers of the social sequence, the more profoundly justice tends to differ from one level to another. What we personally consider to be justice in our own individual cases is one distinct thing. When we climb to the very top, and you are already responsible for a significant group of people, often without having direct personal social contact with them, then your actions truly become a clear manifestation of a different, more profound kind of justice. Because neither you have direct contact with them, nor do they have direct contact with you. And the higher we climb, the greater this significant difference truly becomes. The more there is available up there, the less there is truly present down here. And consequently, the fundamental criteria for justice inevitably change, precisely because of the complete absence or the ready availability of direct contact, so to speak. This is indeed a profoundly different kind of justice. Understanding the very essence of justice is, in actual fact, one of the absolutely key and most crucial elements of effective leadership. And at different levels, it is different. If you interact with people directly, that's one thing. If you are responsible for, say, 30,000 people, 5,000 people, or if you are an official in charge of a community, that's a different kind of leadership, a different format of communication, and therefore, justice is different as well. If we're talking about everyday life, that's one thing. If we're talking in the context of work, that's another. If we're talking in the context of politics, that's a third, and there can be many such differences.
Next question. In one of your interviews, you specifically mentioned that because of the compelling videos you filmed and showed about the everyday life at the front, you were actually kicked out 3 times for that, right?
That's the 15th Brigade.
And you came back 3 times? Yes. What was that about? Was it a desire to see things through to the end?
No, not really. The true motivation behind those particular actions wasn't anything lofty, deeply moral, or truly ethical. I simply just wanted to fight, and I also wanted to film videos. Those two distinct things inherently contradicted each other, but somehow I ultimately managed to find a workable balance. That's all there was to it. I was 20 or 21 years old. Of course, I absolutely wanted to meticulously document my personal participation in such truly large-scale and significant historical events. And not just as some random insignificant person, but rather in a crucial role or a prominent position that would genuinely command some considerable respect, and indeed, a profound sense of personal pride. But listen, we're talking about a 20-year-old kid here, so there was nothing profound or lofty about it. It was simply the desire to show off, to prove how cool you were in the war, and to document your participation in all the important events from some respectable position. And that's all there was to it. You see, the army is quite a conservative institution, especially back then when social networks were basically non-existent for most people in the military at that particular time. It was something distant and incomprehensible. And then, quite unexpectedly, someone starts taking various elements of the internal workings and subsequently showing them to the outside world. There was absolutely nothing critical or particularly important there, just some ordinary, everyday details, but the crucial point is that even that specific occurrence hadn't happened before, ever. Well, those who held significant power and authority, they didn't really appreciate or approve of it at all. It didn't actually cause any harm to anyone. But for those individuals who were accustomed to controlling everything, it was perceived as an element of demonstration, of them progressively losing that absolute control they once possessed. That's why the battalion commander said that I should be sent back to the main base. They sent me back, but then, after approximately a week and a half, the company commander brought me back to the unit. Well, because despite the videos, someone still had to actually do the work. Maybe it's because I hope I wanted it to be this particular way, that I wasn't considered the absolute worst in the entire company. That's why the company leader didn't compromise at all and consistently kept bringing me back to the front lines. But somehow, once again, word would inevitably get to the commander that I was indeed here, and at the very next rotation, they would promptly send me back to the main base or to some extended course, effectively sending me somewhere quite far away. So they sent me to a course in the Mykolaiv region, but I stayed there for about a month and then came back. That's how it was. That's just how it was. And again, this phrase originates from some old interview, probably conducted around 10 years ago, most likely. So I think that even way back then, at that specific point in time, I was likely about 23 or 24 years old. And even at that relatively young age, most likely, the exact phrase you just quoted, I uttered simply to make myself appear more important or significant in that moment. Like I was kicked out of the anti-terrorist operation. But honestly, when you consider it, all of that is just utterly trivial, completely and absolutely insignificant, and no matter how I attempt to present it or articulate it, it genuinely doesn't matter in the slightest at all.
If you imagine that today is the very first day you started your blog, started filming videos, today is Valerii Markus, already with a lot of life and military experience, where would you start?
I wouldn't start anything at all.
You wouldn't start a blog? Why?
Because it's not interesting.
In your life, have you very often heard phrases like, don't stand out, just follow the chain of command, this is the army, there's order here? How did you react to that, and how do you currently react now?
When someone talks about subordination, which doesn't happen often, I usually ask people what subordination actually means. And then it turns out that they themselves don't even know what subordination is.
But did it bother you? Back then or even now, when people talked about subordination or told you not to stand out?
No.
It didn't bother you?
No. I can't even imagine a reason why that would bother me. Well, like if someone actually says something, I can certainly do the complete opposite if I truly want to, if there's a genuine need for it. But why should that bother me?
Have you ever experienced the difficult situation where your closest friends or trusted comrades began to distance themselves from you, or perhaps completely withdrew their support and solidarity simply because you chose to challenge the established system or openly expressed criticism towards a particular individual or authority figure?
No, I haven't. Thank God, never. That has never happened with my friends.
That's good.
Well, there are some people on the periphery, of course, like acquaintances. That's just life. Some people come into your life, some drift away. Some are only there temporarily. But that doesn't concern friends. Friendship is much deeper than that. It's practically family. So, no. Among my friends, nothing like that has ever happened. But from people who aren't really your friends, who are just temporarily around you, even if they don't actively support you, I honestly don't remember ever really paying much attention to it, because I am deeply and truly convinced that no one actually owes me anything at all, and even more so, to support me at their own personal expense. Because when someone does something that the established system doesn't particularly like, and you then start actively supporting them, obviously the system starts seeing you as an enemy too, and will treat you accordingly. So the question is, do you even need that? Is this really your fight or not? Even if you feel completely neutral toward that person, even if you sympathize with them, you are not obliged to stand by their side with a sword and fight over things that you might not even fully comprehend at all. That's precisely why, honestly, I truly didn't notice these particular things myself. Because I don't truly have this concept in my head that just because I, as it simply seems to me, am fighting for a truly just cause, then everyone who is against me is immediately a traitor, even if they're just being neutral. They're still somehow inherently bad, because if I'm on the light side, it doesn't mean everyone else is on the dark side. No, we're all just human after all. I came up with something for myself, and that's my own personal issue. Whoever wants to stands by my side. Whoever doesn't, well, thank you anyway. Just don't stab me in the back.
Because that's unfair.
Why? Why is it really unfair? From their point of view, it could be fair. It's unnecessary trouble. It's unnecessary trouble.
So, usually when you criticized the entire system or went directly against it, you clearly understood that essentially you were a lone warrior in the field. Everything truly depended solely on you.
You could put it much more modestly. We were simply trying to do our job effectively. If some established rules contradicted this desired efficiency, we would sometimes just bypass those particular rules. I mean, fighting against the entire system, that sounds far too loud and confrontational. We were just trying to do our job effectively, as best we could, you know. That's all.
And what inspired you to undertake this work effectively? What was it? What was the mission in this?
My goal then was to build myself a good reputation.
Rebellion or protest or even just outspoken criticism, it's always a certain, undeniable risk. Did you ever feel that there was a distinct line you absolutely couldn't cross? Because beyond that particular line, there would be simply no way back at all?
Well, we already crossed that line a long time ago. And continued running forward at full speed. Didn't even notice it.
Can justice exist without struggle?
That genuinely and truly sounds like a mere slogan, and it is quite difficult for me to discuss such a slogan constructively and meaningfully. What does it mean? Is it justice without any struggle at all, or is it justice that comes with a significant struggle? If one child offends another child, and subsequently gets punished for it, is that just and fair? Probably yes. Is there an element of struggle here? No. So we need some kind of example. Something more specific.
In your life, have you ever fought for justice? To achieve justice for yourself, for your beloved loved ones, your closest friends, or perhaps even for your entire country?
No. When you find yourself in a position where you set the rules of the game, the question of justice stops being some kind of spontaneous phenomenon for you. Justice, what people call justice, is a tool. You either know how to use it or you don't. It's just like any other tool, like a drill.
Ти ним або вмієш користуватись, або не вмієш користуватись. Такий самий інструмент, як дрель.
If you use a drill where it's needed, everything will be great. If you use it where it's not needed, there will be trouble. And it's exactly the same with justice. Justice in relation to yourself, like, like, I deserve much better treatment than I am currently getting. I really do. And that's why I should feel some negative emotion because of injustice. Well, no. I'm not like 12 years old anymore. The point is, the individuals who set the rules of the game in such a way that injustice inevitably happens there, well, that's where I will draw my own conclusions about the true nature of those people. That these people are not very good managers, because that is simply just not acceptable.
And something needs to change?
No, well, if you try to change everything, you won't have enough hands for it. But to say, things need to change, well, they do. Like, okay, let's go drink to that.
But you kind of do something to change things in the country. Well, and some kind of
area where I am actually able to do something. We put in the effort. But grabbing at everything around you, well, that's just foolishness. That's it. I don't hold a grudge against anyone at all. An example regarding what we just discussed. Like, yesterday, the wife of one of our soldiers called me. He was severely wounded in action. He lost his limbs on... And while he was, in short, after he was wounded. And he person came to serve in the 47th Brigade. He passed the test for the sleeve insignia. He fought as part of the 47th Brigade. He was wounded as part of the 47th Brigade. As soon as he was wounded, they just transferred him to the 30th Brigade. Is that fair to this person? No, it's like, first of all, the 30th Mechanized Brigade. Is this some kind of dumping ground for the wounded and unfit? Is it fair to the people who are already serving in the 30th Brigade that they're being treated this way? That every disabled person is just simply sent there? It's unfair. As for this particular person, is that fair? It's even more profoundly unfair. Because this individual, this person possessed significant ambitions, cherished dreams, deeply held beliefs, and carefully laid out plans for the future, all of which were suddenly taken away. A combination of these beliefs and moral ethical qualities brought him to us. He developed himself as a fighter with us. We taught him something. He believed us. He became a part of this organism. But as soon as he broke down just a little, we cast him out. To say that this is unfair is to say nothing at all. And he is not the only one. You could talk about this as just some kind of injustice, a spontaneous manifestation of nature. But it seems to me that talking about such things in this context is, in essence, a way of completely removing the responsibility from the individuals and people who actually made this decision. First and foremost, it's the unit commander, because he either personally made this decision himself, or he consciously decided not to interfere with the process if someone with higher authority made the decision for him. Because no one fought for these people. Did anyone think about how they would feel when they were kicked out of the brigade? You were given people, human lives. You simply used them like a mere toothpick. The toothpick broke, and then you just threw it away. No, your duty is these people. You simply do your job with the hands of these people. It's they who do everything. Your essential task is to just sit and look at the monitor in a basement. You have to always keep in mind what will ultimately happen to these individuals next, because they are humans. These are precious human lives. Justice is a tool, and in this particular case, this is a clear example of when this tool was used quite incorrectly. Because what are the consequences of this? These are literally hundreds, if not thousands upon thousands of deeply offended by you people, some of whom are profoundly depressed, some whose entire lives have already been completely ruined. The people were just thrown out. They've lost all their support, lost their cherished team, lost everything they associated themselves with, what they identified with. They effectively took away their very identity. A person has no legs, but proudly has the flag of the 47th Brigade prominently hanging in his room. He doesn't want to live in the 30th Brigade. The person is broken. Why? Because one commander simply doesn't really give a damn at all about what happens to the people afterwards or the consequences. This is not merely an act of injustice. It is a profound and pervasive indifference that actively cripples the very foundations of our society. And because of this deeply ingrained indifference, we are destined to be swallowing this bitter pill of injustice for at least the next 10 long years, just as we are experiencing it right now. This pervasive injustice, however, is not an abstract concept. This injustice has specific names and identifiable individuals behind it. This injustice has posts. These are decisions. These decisions are made by people. Justice is an instrument. And with this instrument, we either support people, we give them the essential motivation to truly live, to diligently keep working, or we completely break them. Just like many have been broken. For example, when people are wounded and try to get discharged from the army, going through the military medical commission is hell. I don't know. It's just a deeply ingrained systemic act of profound humiliation, really. You've lost your legs. You went through the rigorous military medical commission, and you have this deeply ingrained sense that people should always treat you with the utmost respect and consideration. You did what many others are simply afraid to do. You've lost your health. And yet, despite all of this, they treat you with utter contempt, as if you are nothing more than worthless garbage that is simply wasting their valuable time. This is an injustice of the very highest order. It cripples the entire nation, and the manifestation of this injustice has specific names. There are posts whose decisions have created exactly this particular kind of system, because of which people have to go through this and feel humiliated, when people who truly deserve it are not rewarded at all, properly, and people who absolutely do not deserve it are rewarded. Everyone sees this. Everyone clearly sees it, and they also say that it's quite unfair, because the reward system is indeed also a tool of justice, a manifestation of justice. If you performed a truly heroic deed, then here is your well-deserved reward. If you worked diligently and served faithfully, then here is your just reward. You showed strong character. Where others might have backed down, you certainly didn't. Here is your reward. Well done. But that's not how it happens. And so you go through one assault, then another. What else do I have to do to finally get this fucking little medal? And then, just look, some young girl running around near the esteemed battalion commander effortlessly gets an award. That's a display of injustice. But it's not simple. When we talk about injustice, we often discuss it as if it's some kind of unavoidable natural phenomenon, rather than a complex issue with deep-rooted causes and societal implications. But no. If we remove the word injustice, we're saying that so-and-so, so-and-so, for no damn reason at all, he gave the award. This creature right here. But then there's a whole bunch of people who actually deserve it even more than the one handing out the awards. Nothing really. Because their platoon commander is simply not well liked by the company commander, or perhaps the company commander just genuinely doesn't care for these particular individuals. Or maybe they're just too independent or something like that. What we commonly call injustice is actually the specific, deliberate actions of particular people.
You were a chief sergeant, and you say that justice is a tool. Did you use this tool in your work as a kind of standard or a comprehensive approach to your job?
As far as my available resources allowed, yes. But let's put it this way. None of the individuals I had nominated for various awards were ultimately approved. But as for those who absolutely didn't deserve it, there were no such situations without a response. I brought something like 100 of medals to the unit. All that was left was to simply write down the names of the deserving people for the brigade command's decision. While I was there, that bag with the medals just sat there, completely untouched, probably because no one really cared about it. It just sat there, forgotten, and that was the end of it. When I was transferred to another brigade, I subsequently observed on various social media platforms that almost all of the awards were handed out within the unit of a commander's friend. People who work, probably those who aren't on the assault teams. That is, in an assault brigade, awards are primarily given to those who are actually assaulting. Did those people who weren't assaulting do important high-quality work? Absolutely, yes. But if, say, you only have a total of like 100 awards, and you have to set priorities, and you keep in mind, as from the justice point of view, how this will be perceived by everyone around, so that the unit doesn't lose its combat effectiveness due to a drop in morale of the soldiers. You have to determine the qualitative priorities. Those who truly take the greatest risks should be the ones who are first to receive awards, right?
By the way, did you realize that justice is merely a tool when you were already the chief sergeant, or was it perhaps even earlier than that?
I only formulated that just now.
That's a good thought.
Such an emphasis was born in the course of our dialogue. You see, when you deal with something for a very long time, even just by carefully observing the consequences, the observable manifestations of something, you inevitably start to understand some kind of underlying algorithm, some predictable patterns. A person might not fully understand what gravity truly is, but over the entire course of their life, they gain practical experience that gives them a very clear and undeniable understanding that if they were to jump from the 5th floor, they would certainly die. A person might not fully comprehend what gravity is, what acceleration is, or what mass actually is. But throughout their entire life, they witness countless manifestations of this gravity. They also notice patterns, like if as a child they accidentally dropped a fragile egg, it invariably broke. It's precisely the same with justice. When you enthusiastically join the army and serve, starting from the very bottom, instead of coming in and immediately becoming a director or a commanding officer after just 2 short weeks, you actually work your way up to eventually being a commander. Then, through your own empirical experience, through the reactions of the people all around you, you understand. These simple truths reach you directly through your feelings. You just understand that it's not worth jumping from the 5th floor, even if you have absolutely no idea what the force of gravity is. It's precisely the same here. You realize that if you act in this particular way, this specific group of people will most definitely be deeply upset. And they will be set against you, and you have to give them orders. If you will act in such a manner now, next time you give an order, at best they'll just simply say, "Yes, sir," and then proceed to go and do absolutely nothing at all. And they'll make up excuses for why it happened that way. These are the consequences of such stupid actions, which can be called an injustice. The consequence of such stupid actions is simply put that the essential work won't get done.
Наслідками цих тупих дій є банально те, що не буде робитись робота.
The unit loses its effectiveness. The unit loses its morale. The unit loses trust in you.
In other words, injustice leads to ultimate defeat,
To a loss of faith.
and then it can potentially lead to even worse consequences indeed.
It can even lead to betrayal.
The book Traces on the Road, your very first published book, and it immediately became a significant bestseller. 5,000 copies in 3 weeks, and now it seems over 100, about 100,000 have already been sold, right?
Definitely more than 100,000, but I don't know the exact number.
Did you really expect such success when you were writing or publishing it at all?
Well, we actually hoped for it.
What do you think specifically interested readers?
I don't know.
You need to ask the readers.
When you published it yourself with partners? You made a video about it? You have this long video about how to self-publish a book where you told the whole story, and you refused to cooperate with Ukrainian publishers. Why then did you ultimately refuse to have your book published by a traditional publishing house?
Because the overall distribution of the money generated from the book sales seemed quite unfair to me, personally. It felt not fair.
In your book, the main character says the following words: "It was stupid people, in their endless and relentless desire to meticulously organize everything, who invented good, evil, justice, and similar such utter nonsense. Justice is not inherent to this world." Do you really still think so?
No. I don't think that way anymore.
Why?
Because at that time I hadn't had to manage large teams. This book was written when I was 22 or 23 years old. I didn't have that kind of experience. Back then, well, I understood justice as a tool. But a group, a society, cannot exist without justice. It will fall apart. That's why this justice is invented. It doesn't exist on its own. It's not a spontaneous phenomenon. This construct was created and invented by people. And it works. It exists in our minds. It's a social phenomenon. That's why justice exists. I wrote there that it was invented by people. I still believe that it was invented by people. Another matter is that back then I called it nonsense. But that's not true. That's not true. Perhaps in 1,000,000 years from now, when our human evolution significantly changes, it will undoubtedly turn into complete nonsense. But for today, it most certainly isn't. Today it isn't. It's just as much an invented social construct, an important part of our society's existence, like money, like the economy, like the Constitution. These things do not exist in nature either. We ourselves invented them. And within us, these are real constructs that influence our lives, that we rely on. For us, these things shape our reality. So it's not nonsense, it's an important element of the existence and functioning of human society. When a society is governed by people who do not realize this, the consequences will be tragic.
You actually wrote this particular book quite a while ago, and now, at this present moment,
A little bit.
you've had some time to reflect on that particular quote, and now, if you'll allow me, I'd like to quote another passage directly from your insightful book. This passage states that the true heroes of this war are few, and only a few know them. Few of them have the proper awards, because to receive an award you need not only a heroic deed, but also a quick tongue and connections. These are special people. They are naturally just, and this is more a gift from God than a character trait. Being around such people, you really start to believe that justice exists. In fact, back then you still truly believed that justice genuinely existed?
The true heroes of this war are few, and only a few know them. Few of them possess the proper appearance. To receive new awards, you need not only a feat, but also quick tongue. Yes, I understand now what this subject matter is about. I wrote, I didn't fully understand that then. This is precisely what I was talking about earlier, that there are just certain inherent patterns. You simply cannot formulate a definitive law by which this or that specific phenomenon occurs. However, through a considerable amount of practical hands-on empirical experience, you gradually begin to discern and catch certain recurring patterns, and consequently develop an understanding of how these intricate things operate and function. This narrative is written about individuals who, on an instinctive and deeply ingrained level, possess an exceptionally strong and unwavering sense of what true justice is. They consistently and faithfully reproduce this inherent understanding of fairness and equity in their daily lives and interactions, because this deeply rooted awareness of justice has shaped their entire worldview, influencing every aspect of their perspectives, and has also formed their intricate and robust system of moral and ethical values, guiding their every decision and action. It's not a matter of fact that these people are aware of it themselves, but in my life, I've encountered such people. They are just like that, through and through. I've encountered such people in my life, and this is written about them.
So, are you probably talking about the hero archetype, like the hero in Folklore 2,
The archetype
of the father?
who is always just in all his dealings, and even when he finds it necessary to punish you, the process of that punishment unfolds in such a manner that afterwards you inevitably begin to respect the person who administered that punishment even more deeply, precisely because you genuinely feel and understand that it was absolutely fair and deserved. That is to say, you were indeed punished. But even your own deep-seated inner complexes couldn't truly convince you that this particular person is, in fact, a complete scoundrel. That's a remarkable talent. That's a truly exceptional talent. And when a person like that, when they assign some kind of punishment, they do everything deliberately, not just on a whim. He organizes it in such a way that serving this punishment does not diminish your honor. On the contrary, as a direct result of diligently serving this punishment, your self-esteem actually rises because you are given the valuable opportunity to come out of this challenging situation with your dignity intact. You might even have the chance to show your moral fortitude or even your physical strength, especially when the punishment does not undermine your personal honor and unity. On the contrary, if you serve this punishment with genuine dignity and integrity, you might even gain some extra, well-deserved respect or authority within the group. That's a talent, and these are true natural-born leaders, something you can probably learn.
The archetype of the nation is created with the support of the Ukrainian Cultural Foundation and is released in various formats. So, choose the format you like, listen, watch, read our episodes, and also share your thoughts in the comments, because in this project, every opinion matters. And of course, subscribe to our channels and pages so you don't miss anything interesting. All the links are in the description of this episode. While preparing this episode, we researched how justice is represented in Ukrainian folklore and came to the following conclusion. Justice is one of the main guiding principles for Ukrainians. The Ukrainian worldview is characterized by a deep sense of truth, respect for fair judgment, equality within the community, and the rejection of the arbitrariness of those in power or occupiers. The belief in punishment for wrongdoing and reward for just actions permeates the entire layer of folklore tradition, from mythological prose to modern war songs.
At first, it was told as a completely subjective story. 100 years ago, a large number of people gathered who felt injustice and shouting, "Take and divide," simply took property away from people, including those who had honestly acquired it. They took property from people, including those who had earned it honestly, only because, from their point of view, it was fair to divide it.
In our rich folklore, the hero usually valiantly fights against profound injustice and resolutely stands up to evil, regardless of whether he has any external support. That is to say, it is usually some kind of deep inner core, an unwavering inner confidence that the truth is absolutely worth fighting for. Even if the entire world is completely against you, do you truly believe that a single individual can indeed overcome systemic injustice and fundamentally change the established system?
It is just one person.
People.
Do not change systems.
This star in helmets might be.
A different system. All systems are people. When a small ecosystem is created within the system, but it becomes so self-sufficient, so powerful, that it starts to grow within this system, and it infects it. This can happen in a good way or in a bad way.
But can a hero truly inspire? Inspire society? And uplift everyone around them? If
someone uses this hero sacrifice in the right way, then yes, it's also a tool. When we thoughtfully raise something as a prominent banner, this powerful tool can genuinely inspire, or it can effectively suppress resistance, potentially causing deep despair, or alternatively, it can truly inspire. We must carefully consider the significant consequences of this profound sacrifice. They may indeed exist, or they may not exist at all. It's a profound question of what the living will ultimately do with this significant sacrifice afterwards. A person acts in this particular way because they live and operate within such a deeply ingrained moral and ethical system. You don't really give much thought to whether it will ultimately have any significant long-term consequences. Of course, I can comfort myself with that, but that's just being naive because you don't know. It's the confidence that you need to take this step, even though you're not sure what will happen next, or whether it will be of any benefit. This is a moral and ethical system, a system of principles. You realize that it's not even about what others will do with your sacrifice afterwards. The point is, if I don't take this step now, I will betray myself. So, it's definitely better to do it now, to take this risk, and even if I will die, at least I absolutely won't have to live with the profound shame deep inside my very soul. So here it's not so much about achieving pure justice as it is about actively protecting your own deeply held inner worldview, your own fundamental value system.
But this very value system is built, among other things, on the understanding of what is just and what is unjust.
So everyone acts from the perspective of whether something is just or unjust. Even those who steal money convince themselves that it's fair. Do you think someone who steals money thinks, I'm such a scoundrel, I'm such a bastard? That they just think, I don't deserve to live. No, everyone justifies themselves in any situation, convincing themselves that it's fair. I stole the money, and that's fair. Because of reason 1 and reason 2, and because once upon a time it was like this, that's 3. And besides, I do a lot of useful work, so I'm just taking this as an advance.
However, as it used to be, and still is in Ukrainian folklore, there are certain standards for what is fair and what is not. So if you turn to justify yourself, let's say, by referring to those values we already have, our basic values, which are actually found in folklore. For them, it's obvious that certain actions are unjust and certain actions are just. The question is, which side will you choose?
Look, the question of justice is an absolutely subjective matter. Here, from a leadership perspective, the task is to clearly define what justice is, much like determining the average comfortable temperature in a room for the specific team with whom you are actively working. And importantly, this definition must also be in relation to your own deeply held moral and ethical system and personal values. Because if you act according to what the vast majority wants, that's already one extreme. It's simply unfair and unjust treatment of people, where it's blatantly obvious that individuals are being treated unjustly, like those who are severely wounded and are just carelessly discarded as completely useless by the system when they are no longer considered useful or valuable. The other extreme is populism, when you see what the majority wants and you just give them everything they ask for, just so they will support you. Justice is a subjective matter. Your task as a leader is to determine what kind of climate you will create in the team through your actions and how this will reflect on you.
які своїми вчинками ти створиш клімат в колективі, і як це відобразиться і на тобі.
But this does not exclude the fact that people in the team, their sense of justice may indeed be flawed, because you might just gather a group of 10 people and then say, okay, let's take it away and split it. From my perspective, that's not right. And if, from my personal perspective, it's truly not right or correct, but I still go along with the team just to satisfy their collective sense of justice, which I firmly believe is fundamentally flawed, then, at that point, I am no longer the one setting the actual rules of the game. The team is definitively setting the rules for me. That's why it's a balance. It's truly important that, in general, people genuinely have something deep within their souls to even orient themselves by their inherent sense of justice. Well, now we are talking about some pretty extreme and unusual cases. Frankly, we don't have anything like that. At least I've never encountered it. There have been some tough teams, really tough ones. But as for situations where it was impossible to establish communication, impossible to work with the team, or impossible to create a good atmosphere, well, I don't recall anything like that in my experience. Basically, in most cases, you can find an approach to the team and set up the rules of the game by which it will operate. Because there is collective justice and there is individual justice. It's important to distinguish between the two.
It's time for our traditional game with the guest. Let's take a look into our folklore box, and today it contains proverbs and sayings about truth. What is our game about? I'll start a proverb and you have to finish it. You can use the traditional ending or come up with your own version. Shall we play?
Well, okay, let's do it.
Truth is brighter than...
Why do I immediately feel like adding something really funny to this?
Can I?
I can't come up with anything, nothing at all. And I don't know the original ending either. Well, I should have come up with something. Something smart, interesting, but nothing comes to mind. Next.
A lie stands on just one leg.
Well, I honestly don't know the original version either, but the truth is indeed clearly presented on the page.
Let's remember about propaganda. A true friend doesn't flatter, but rather the one who
flatters you with honey.
It's a misfortune in the world when there is none. None of what?
Just light.
Anything else?
What's else? Justice.
Truth.
That's not interesting. Ah, the truth. No, not interesting.
Everything will pass, but the truth?
Will stay, is it?
Yes. One more question. We're already approaching the end of our program. One more final question. Are you working on a new book now? I'm sure many people would like to know.
From time to time.
Is it about the place of justice or about injustice?
I haven't thought about it in those terms.
Will you think about it after our interview?
Well, let's put it this way. Manifestations of injustice. Those will definitely be there.
This book will probably be about personal experience again.
Well, yes. We all write about ourselves.
To wrap up, a blitz interview. 7 questions, 7 short or not very slow answers.
I thought it was the Blitz already.
No, that wasn't the blitz yet. 7 questions, 7 short or not so short answers. What trait do you value most in people?
A subtle sense of justice.
And which do you consider the worst?
Pride.
What inspires you?
Pride.
And what scares you?
Pride.
What helped you hold on during the difficult moments in your life?
Pride.
The main goal or mission of your life?
To get rid of pride.
Now it gets harder, the last question. If you had to choose 3 words that describe Ukrainians, what would those words be?
Army, language, faith.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Friends, today in our studio we had Valerii Markus, Write in the comments what interesting things you learned for yourself. Do you think that justice is one of the important values inherent to the Ukrainian people? What do you think about justice? Let me remind you that you can watch episodes of the Archetype of the Nation project on YouTube, listen on your favorite podcast platforms, and read on the website magicworld.com.ua. In particular, there you will find popular science essays prepared by folklorist Marina Demediuk, as well as recordings of folklore works performed by well-known actors. Thank you for your attention and goodbye.